wish to be interrupted. Let's see.
Timmy is running late.
Yes. I'd like to call the February Town Council meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everybody. We got a very full house. Glad to see it. Everybody interested in the community. This time we'll have a prayer led by Reverend Carlton Duck. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
One side note, if everyone would please mic up and turn your mic on, please. Our Heavenly Father, we come into your presence tonight, and as Paul said, in all things we give you thanks. We give you praise and thanksgiving for every blessing that you bestow upon us. And tonight we can look around with life, our community, our families, our friends, our council, each person in this community. We just pray your divine blessings upon them. We pray that you will orchestrate and bless in this meeting tonight. May the words that we say truly bring honor and glory and praise to your name. Now guide, direct, and bless as only you can. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Let us pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, February is upon us. We move through our year hoping to conduct the business that enhances the town, its citizens, and its businesses for all. So we have a schedule of public appearances. First is the Honorable Donald D. Simpson, Sheriff, Appomattox County Sheriff's Office. Mr. Simpson, if you take the podium, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. This time of year is always budget prep year, and I appreciate you having me this evening. And I'm here to request a couple items. First, I'd like to thank you for everything that you have done for our office and me during my tenure as sheriff and other times as deputy. Every time that I have been before council, I've been met with professionalism and good response, so I do appreciate working with you all. And thank you for what you give us. You give us 2 officers now, and we appreciate it. We have approximately 20 deputies full-time and 7 part-time that work between the courts and schools. And though the town covers a smaller portion, the county's 354 square miles plus or minus. But the majority of our calls and the majority of our time spent is within the town, and we have to work together. Tonight, I come before you as a follow-up to a conversation that Terry and I had a couple months ago that started at the request of council, I believe, in response to putting another canine, a dog, back in our patrol fleet. And I have worked, and I've got some numbers to present to you. Roxanne, I've got some packets to distribute.
Go that way.
There should be enough for everybody there. I'll give you a second to get that.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you.
So to start with, the dog, the reference page for the dog would be the document titled Shallow Creek Kennels. They're an organization out of Pennsylvania. They are the trusted group that trains most of the canines in this area. So Campbell County, Pennsylvania County, State Police, Danville Police Department, Fredericksburg, King George, Manassas, and Warren County are their Virginia references. And I just talked to the canine handler lieutenant for Campbell, and they've got 3 dogs now, and all of them have been trained through this company. The price for a narcotics trained and a tracking dog, their current price as of today is $12,500 for the dog, the training, and the housing of the officer. The only thing that does not include will be the food for the officer for that training period. The training period lasts 4 to 6 weeks, and they have a class starting in June that if we choose to go down this path, I would like to send the officer in June. That way that school would be complete, the county public schools, and I could get if it's one of the SROs that would be a canine handler. It wouldn't impact the schedule, and it wouldn't impact the school coverage as SRO. So the timeline I would like to operate on is if we approve to do this, if you all see fit in doing this, that we could get them in that June class. A dog that is trained with this company would be able to sniff out pretty much any of the narcotic spectrum, methamphetamine, heroin, cocaine, and they could also train it in tracking, whether that children, missing adults, that type of thing. I have no intention of getting a attack dog. I don't want that. I'm not doing that. This dog would not be that. I would like this dog to be comfortable in a school setting and comfortable around children and handler around kids. And that's what this company does. That's what these dogs do. Bedford has a dog in a school, one of the county schools. Cumberland has a dog in a county school, just locally it works. That's a direction that I'm thinking, is getting the dog trained where a principal use of it would be in the school setting, but it would also be able to be utilized for other things too. Those are the raw numbers for the dog. That would be a one-time expense. Additional one-time expenses would be, just based on research that I was doing, $5,000 range for a good kennel and concrete pad. It's an investment of the dog, and we want the dog to have a decent life. So, the kennels that I was looking at were in that range. I mean, certainly there are cheaper ones, but this would be a concrete pad, fenced dog house kennel combination. And to do that, I think you're in that $5,000 range. The additional expense for a car is in the $1,000, $1,500 range, and that would be a partition for the dog to be partitioned off from the part where a person would ride in the back of the car. We've got to have these cars dual purpose. I don't like to have a car that is specifically for the dog and then they can't transport people easily, because there are times when they may have to arrest someone and they're the only person working. So we can split the seat in half, where the half would be partitioned off for the dog and the other half would be partitioned off for a person. And they make those types of partitions, and they're in the $1,000, $1,500 range. So your one-time expenses are $12,500, $5,000 for the kennel, $1,000 for a car, and the yearly maintenance for the dog, vet bills, food, that type of thing. Campbell County, I reached out to them, and it's been several years since we had a dog, and what we had allotted would not cut it based on price of everything. So they allot $5,600 per dog per year for food, vet bills, other expenses. That would be the approximate cost for us to start the K-9 program back. The benefits, it's just an additional tool to combat drugs. There is nothing that surpasses the smell sense of a canine. There's no invention of man that beats what a dog can do. They're used by every agency, state, local, federal. You see them in our nation's airports. They're the front line of security. And there's nothing that beats a well-trained dog and handler combination. It's a large investment, I realize that. If it's the will of council to do that, I certainly support it, and I'd love to have it. And I think it'd be a great tool for us to get it out there to protect our children. I know everyone in this room cares about the children in our schools, and we do what we can. I try to keep an officer at every school every day, and this will be an additional element of security that I would try to gravitate towards the schools, whether it's an SRO that has this dog. I'm not sure, but that is something that I'm certainly looking at, where we could have this dog around the schools during the school day every day. In the interest of time, that is a quick rundown. Are there any questions concerning the dog?
So the initial total fee amount that we would provide for the dog, do you have that total for the first year? And I know some of these that you mentioned were a one-time expense. What would be the initial total?
The sum of those figures, which I didn't do the math.
Yeah.
But
Well, I've done it while I'm sitting here. The
Okay.
initial would be $20,000 for the one-time fees, and then an additional $5,600 annually
For
for
the
the upkeep
care
of the
of the
dog. So the
dog,
first
yeah.
year, it looks like it would be $25,600,
And,
and then $5,600 from then on.
uh-huh,
So,
that,
round numbers here would be 26 grand in the next fiscal year and then 6 grand every fiscal year after.
and that is a bit less than what we talked about initially, so.
right, it is less than just the ballpark numbers we threw out. And this is a reputable company that I trust based on the conversations I've had with other officers, and that's what they're paying. So, I do feel like those numbers are pretty solid.
And the deputy would have to be trained
Yeah.
to handle.
4 to 6 weeks. 4 is drugs alone, and 6 would be the addition to the tracking.
Okay.
I don't know about you all, but I've heard on the news that this is one of the best ways local governments can assist our police in taking care of this drug problem.
Right.
And we've got that problem here, and I, for one, am all for it. And I hope we can get you the funds as soon as you need them, and we can try to take care of this problem in the community. And I thank you, Donnie, for all you're doing,
Thank
because
you.
I know it's not easy. And I appreciate what you're doing, sir.
Thank you.
And I concur.
I had a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a cap of hours this dog can work? I mean, if he's working all day at school,
Well, the thing about that, the dog would have to have rest periods.
Right.
That's up to the handler. Dogs, they're very intense when they're working,
right?
and they may work very intently for 30 minutes and then have to take a break for a couple
Okay.
hours. So, I think the typical dog day at school would be maybe in the mornings, around the kids, and then bell, maybe lunchtime. The dogs will have a lot of rest. Dogs can find a place to rest.
And is the pay for the deputy in any of these numbers?
That would be, no, that's absorbed by us. The position would be there. So my thoughts, I have asked the county for 2 more positions. I don't know if I'll get them. The comp board, the state compensation board, they owe us 1. I've asked for additional positions from them. So those positions would cover this K-9. Now, if council saw fit to give us another officer, I'd take that too. Right now, this has no bearing on salary or anything for an officer.
It's just the expense for the dog.
Correct.
Where's the limit I guess where VACO, whoever the insurer is, where does that policy step in if the dog were to die or get injured versus if a deputy just quit and said, I'm not being your dog handler anymore? Is that dog still valuable? Would VACO cover that as a loss?
So, they, as far as specific to the VACO policy, I would have to, I doubt if what you're asking would be addressed as far as it. My suggestion would be, if we go down this path, we need to draft an MOU with whatever the town would like. Would you like the dog to go back to the town if the officer leaves, gets fired, quits, whatever? Does the town maintain control of this dog? And, I think we need to iron that out within the MOU. Run it by your county attorney or your town attorney as far as your liability. Every dog bites.
We have already done that, Donnie, with VML and also with our town attorney.
And that's what I do when we've had a dog in the past, conversations with our overseer for our insurance and just let them know what we're doing, whether they want to put an additional rider. But the type of dog that we would get would not be an aggressive, traditionally aggressive type dog where you would add extra insurance for bite. But I think as far as at the end of career type thing, or if the officer leaves, because dogs are specific to an officer. And that's a very valid point. If the officer goes, then you have a dog that probably cannot be worked by someone else. So that's a lot of decision has to be made into who takes this dog. But I think we need a good exit plan written out of what happens to the animal if that happens.
How many years can we reasonably feel that we can get use out of
I
this?
think the 5 to 7 range is a good working dog mark. I've seen them go longer. I've seen, dogs are susceptible to human illnesses, it seems like. They get cancer, heart disease, those type of things too. But generally the hard working life is in that 5 to 7 range.
Would the deputy selected to go through the dog handler program, a new deputy that's not certified you pay to send them to the academy, there's some sort of agreement for a time that they'll stay. Is it standard to require that for a dog handler? Would you say you're signing a 4-year contract or whatever?
In the industry, I've never seen that. Not for a specific role for dog handling. I've never seen that before.
I doubt that would fly.
Yeah.
I think we have to, I've got in mind who I think would be a good dog handler, and I look for somebody that, is stable in their life, is stable in the community, that I don't think is going anywhere. And, because we're investing in, if we put a concrete pad doghouse on their real estate, that's staying there too. So,
Yeah.
it is a big investment. But the dog has to sleep somewhere.
That's right.
And, you don't want it in a mud hole. So, you got to put some investment there.
Yep, that's.
Moving on, the other request that I'd like to put in the council this year is for a vehicle, a car. As far as my research is concerned, and I can be corrected if I'm wrong, but I think the town has provided 2 officers basically since 1989. And the only cars that we have been given for those 2 officers were inherited from the dissolution of the town back at that time. So I don't think, and Roxanne, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think the town has ever provided a police car for the town officers since then. So my request would be for a new sheriff's office car to come from the town. And the numbers, I didn't put all of the cost on your sheet. Basically, with the sheet that you have is the price, it's called the Virginia Public Body Procurement Price. That is a negotiated bottom line price directly from the manufacturer through a dealer. And those prices are listed on your sheet of what the new patrol cars cost. And that is a very volatile market, and these costs are going up really daily if we can find a car. So I've had 3 on order for, about a year now, that we have had the money ready to pay for, we can't get them. So you can very well say, yeah, buy a car, and we won't be able to buy it anyway. But that is my request. I would like for you all to please consider that, buying a car for the sheriff's office for patrol. And this would be a marked sheriff's car to be used in our patrol fleet. It would just be paid for by the town. You see the approximate cost there, and then the other big expense in police cars is equipment and installs. And to install all the police equipment, it's $7,242 for everything we put in the car, and then it's another $1,197 for the radio system that we have to have. So you're another, close to $10,000 in equipment that goes in these cars. And the life of these cars, we're pushing 200,000 miles on most of them, and you're getting 5-6 years out of them. And maintenance costs have gone up. We've really squeezed every last mile out of them. We do have some now in the fleet with 200,000 miles on it. I'm pushing that 200,000 mile mark, which I don't like, but we can't get new cars is one thing. It's really been a supply chain issue in even finding new cars. But that would be my request this year, would be for an additional car.
And this amount on the first page does not include the additional equipment?
It does not.
Okay, and how about the insurance on the car? Would that be handled by your department?
Actually, you all pay, is it for one insurance unit? It's in our budget. I think it works out to about $600 a car.
Okay.
It's about what we're paying our insurance carrier.
All right. How many cars do you have in your fleet right now?
We have, it's 20, we've got several that are being pulled that we're going to send an auction. What we have on the insurance list is in the 25, 28 range, but 3, I'm looking to my manager there on a,
We've got 5 that are broke down and go to auction. We got one car that breaks down right now. We have no other cars to give that individual. So that deputy's without a car, we got to switch them around and rotate them somehow. So we have no extra cars right now. And that includes 2 or 3 that are pushing 200 or some thousand. Which we used to switch them out at 120, and we're switching them out at 200.
I can certainly understand that. And we also understand, and Mr. Elder's right in the back, the difficulty you have with obtaining a car. If you see a car you want and you hesitate, one day it's gone.
it's gone. And the price will be up.
Oh,
next time you
absolutely.
look. So,
Yeah, we feel that pain.
that's it. That's all I'm
Okay,
asking
thank
for.
you very much.
That's a lot. But
Bringing this to us. Phew.
Oh, man.
any further questions?
We'll have budget workshop meetings, and we'll have finance committee meetings in which we will discuss it. But I know the dog, you want to get that started.
Yeah, I'd
in
love to
June.
hear, so I can
We
get that person
try to
into Gene's.
put that on
Yep,
fast track.
yep, sounds great. Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Appreciate it.
Next on our agenda, Mr. Bill Jamerson for a presentation for the Appomattox Civil War Museum.
Oh, let's flip that around. I'd like to talk to Haley. I had thought Bill was going to do the introduction.
That's all right.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to you. I'm obviously not Mr. Bill Jameson. I am Rob Havers, President and CEO of the American Civil War Museum. It's great to stand in front of you this evening. I've been President and CEO of the American Civil War Museum for nearly 2 years. Obviously, we have 2 sites in Richmond, the White House of the Confederacy and our site at Tredegar, and of course, our museum at Appomattox. In those 2 years since I've been here, the goal has really been to raise the visibility of the institution broadly and to ultimately become known on a national basis as being a resource for the American Civil War, its study and its legacy, and providing education on a national basis, but of course grounded here in Virginia. Our site here in Appomattox is a tremendous part of what we offer. It is in a town that is in touch with the past, in a place where the Civil War came to an end and which has many tourists coming through. The goal really, since I've been on board for Appomattox, has been twofold, a two-pronged approach. One, do a better job of engaging with the local community, bring back programs that people can attend, do more things for the community with the Civil War Museum at its heart, but also look to do a better job of temporary exhibitions and other opportunities to draw in more tourists from broader than Appomattox. A greater percentage of those who visit the national park in the first instance, but also bringing more people just generally on the back of the statewide and increasingly regional advertising buys that we are undertaking. So what you have in front of you is a letter from me and hopefully a circulated draft proposal for how we would spend some of these funds. The request essentially is for $15,000 a year for the next 5 years for a sum of $75,000. You can see in the supplementary material how we would intend to spend initially, and a lot of the money would go towards changing out our temporary exhibition space, bringing an exhibition that has been on display at Tredegar called Southern Ambitions that really looks at what the Confederacy was thinking about while the Civil War was going on and how it was planning to engage internationally. It's proven to be very interesting to those who come and visit at Tredegar. We would love to have that on site here, but also do a better job of programming on site in Appomattox and bringing more people from the local community. So there's a sample of what we would be considering to spend some of these funds on. We're looking to develop a program of regular temporary exhibitions at Appomattox, whether they're curated here based on our collection or whether they are rotating between Tredegar and Appomattox. Certainly in the first instance, the Southern Ambitions exhibition would what we would propose to bring here. And again, the intent would be more people coming to the Civil War Museum, spending money in the town of Appomattox in restaurants, hopefully staying overnight, maybe attending one of our evening programs. But the bigger picture has been to resuscitate what was a great institution in Appomattox in the past and bring it to life again with a lot more focus and a lot more attention from Richmond, as we simultaneously do the same thing in Richmond with our two sites there. Knock on wood, we've had great support from the community. We established the Appomattox Advisory Council about 9 or 10 months ago. We have some representatives in the room here. We have a board member on the main board of the American Civil War Museum who is an Appomattox resident. So the intention has been to give both a voice to Appomattox on the main board and also ensure that there is a mouthpiece for the main site in Richmond and the board in Appomattox as well, and a better communications policy and a much more of a two-way street. So again, as I said, knock on wood, things are going quite well. We've had great financial support locally and in Tredegar and more attendance at our programs. So that essentially is the $30,000, 30,000 feet position. If I can answer any questions, be happy to. And thank you for the opportunity to stand up here this evening.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
I get an earful every night. My daughter works over there.
That's exactly right. I know well.
My brother works over there.
Well, we're plugged into the community. That's
Definitely plugged, yep.
I guess I'm next.
Yes, sir.
Bill Jamison, Mr. Mayor, Council, thank y'all for the opportunity to come before y'all tonight. I'm representing the Advisory Council of the American Civil War Museum. I want to thank Dr. Haver for making his trip up here to Richmond tonight to make his presentation. It's always good to have him. He's been a regular attendant to Appomattox, to meetings and things for the last 2 years, and we really appreciate what he's meant for us. He's listened to us, he's advised us, and he's been a great supporter of the local advisory group. It's been a long process to get to where we are and to get Dr. Haver on board as a This started over 3 years ago. Dr. Paul Harvey got a small group together that started at what can we do to get more interest and more support for the American Civil War Museum. And it was a small group, and we could start the meeting. And from day one, our emphasis was been to that Appomattox needed a voice in the museum, which we did not have. We'd kind of lost our voice from Richmond. We were not having much attention from down there. And so we've let it be known every time we had a chance to talk to somebody from Richmond. And we started with the head of the museum at the time. We thought we were making some headway, and she left to go to another museum. And so then we got an interim director down there, and she started meeting with us, coming up at regular, and we were making good headway there. And then COVID hit, so everything kind of stopped. So Dr. Haver came along a couple of years ago, and one of his first visits was to Appomattox. So he has really offered his support. He's done everything he said he's going to do to support us. He says, told us when he came here, said, I'll come to Appomattox at least once a month, which was kind of a record because we hadn't seen anybody for probably a year from Richmond. So it's just been great to have him on board and have his support. So we had this emphasis that we needed, and with his help, we've gotten through now. We have the board, which he announced, about 15 or 16 local citizens, and we're meeting regular, and we're having activities. We're trying to bring it back to life. We had the local advisory board back in, I think it was probably September, maybe a month earlier than that, but we decided we'd have a capital campaign to raise money for Appomattox. And through the efforts now, it's kind of been a soft opening with no publicity about it and very quiet. But we have raised pledges. These are 5-year pledges. We've raised pledges to date of $522,500, which is basically all resident. That's all this money basically came from Appomattox citizens, businesses, or people who have businesses in Appomattox. And so, but the thing is really, I think, pleasing about it, $186,000 that money has already been paid in. So the local support is here. The people want to help. I mean, our response when I've talked to people is just, call people there that I talk to, and some folks that have no interest at all. Well, yeah, I'll give you $2,000 a year for 5 years. You know, it's been that kind of response, and it's really been great. We have a great group of volunteers. We had a great program right there, a fall festival that was well attended and well received, and we had another open house activity at Christmas time. We've had several book talks. So things are going well for us, but we need the town's help. We think we'd like for the town to recognize this pledge and come up with it. We think the American Civil War Museum is a great asset to the town of Appomattox and the county of Appomattox. And I would like to see the town of Appomattox name in big bold prints on a plaque when the plaque is put up for the condolences on this project. So thank you all for listening and having us here tonight, and we'd love to have your support. We really need your support. Thank you. Are there any questions for me?
No, sir. Anybody else from the public need to speak at this time? All right.
Chamber, did you want to speak? Not tonight? Okay, all right.
And we'll move right along. All matters listed on the consent agenda are considered routine by the council and will be approved or received by one motion in the form listed. Items may be removed from the consent agenda for discussion under the regular agenda upon motion of any council member and duly seconded.
Mayor Connor?
Yes, sir.
If I may, I would like to add to the consent agenda tonight council discussion of the process for the managerial evaluation or evaluations.
We'll put that into new business. It doesn't need to go on the consent agenda.
I believe Roxanne
We need to vote on it.
Yes.
now,
we-
right?
You need to vote on the consent
Says
agenda
different.
to add it. Yes.
Second.
Pardon me.
Does that
Thank
make
you.
sense?
To add it to the consent agenda? Yes.
I second that.
Got a motion made, properly seconded to add the managerial evaluation process to the consent agenda. Any discussion on the amendment?
Mayor Connor, are you going to add new business item number 6
Yep.
also?
We'll do it on a separate amendment.
Okay.
Hearing no discussion, all in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Ayes have it, motion carries. Another item for the consent agenda. Consideration to recommend Jacob Ranson to the Joint Board of Zoning Appeals. Entertain a motion.
I make that motion.
I will second it.
Motion made, properly seconded. Any discussion?
Was he contacted? He wants to do this?
Yes, he wrote Mr. Rourke an email today.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
As long as we know where, he knows
As
where.
long as he knows he's doing it,
That'd be bad.
he'll know now.
Surprise.
Any further discussion on the amendment? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Ayes have it, motion carries. So, any discussion on the consent agenda as amended? Entertain a motion to,
Do we need a motion for that?
To adopt the consent agenda with the addition of
We
new business
adopt-
6 and 7. To
Sorry.
adopt the consent agenda with the addition of new business items 6 and 7.
Mayor, I move that we adopt the consent agenda with addition of items 6 and 7.
I will second that motion.
motion made and properly seconded to adopt the consent agenda as amended. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Ayes have it, the motion carries. So any unfinished business to come before the council at this time? New business. Discussion and consideration to appropriate the funding for the purchase of 2 sewer pumps for fiscal year 2023 at a cost not to exceed $10,000.
We had 2 filter pump, well, 1 filter pump has actually went down. The other one is having issues, for important part due to electricity costs and other chemical costs that Sun's seen for the year. I'd like to ask y'all to add $10,000 into the budget to help me cover it so we don't go over for the year. And it's something, we have no choice but to fix it. Any questions?
I have one, I don't know who can answer it. Is this something that we can take out of ARPA funding, or is this something we gotta come out of the general fund? Yeah, you or Terry?
I'm thinking because it's a repair and not, I'm leaning toward out the general fund, but I can
Okay.
check.
Okay, because I thought if it was a way we could use that, it might be,
I will check on it, but I'm thinking
Okay.
it's going to be.
well, we gotta do it any way.
This is a question, I guess, for both of you. How tight do we usually run that budget? Could we just let you have discretionary spending and spend it without a,
That's a question, Per, but I cut the budget by quite a bit last year, so. Kinda wish I had
because you
done
can
it now.
spend up to, what, 20,000 or something without a council action?
Yeah, and, well, it's a matter of at the end of the year, if that fund, the entire sewer fund stays in control, not that specific line. So, the sewer fund historically has been okay. So, and it's not that close. So, just based on the historical record, we should be fine, but I don't know, as a manager, how do you feel?
The electricity bill is running quite a bit higher than Hess, which everywhere.
Inflation.
Down, I'm pretty sure I will go over the line item. I think I can encompass it in the whole sewer budget, but I just figured we'd come ask and give y'all opportunity. I can do it either way y'all prefer.
So to be sure you have the funds you need for this item, you are asking us to.
Correct.
And
Right,
is 10
and-
enough?
Yes.
Okay.
What's the cleanest way, Kim, in your opinion, from a county perspective? Would you prefer to just let him exhaust the budget line, or does it make sense to transfer money from the general fund now?
Right now, based on what I can see, I have no crystal ball. I mean, I think he'll be fine, and he will exhaust the line. But again, I'll say, in the past, the sewer fund has been able to take a hit like that as a fund in general.
As opposed to touching our general fund money, then can we just move around money
It's
in
not
the?
coming out of the general fund,
Yeah,
it's
it
gonna
would-
come out of the
yeah,
sewer
general
line.
It would come out of
It
sewer
will not
fund,
come out of
okay.
the
It will
general
come out
fund.
the sewer.
Okay, I just got confused because I heard general fund when you had said that.
There's no need to move the money over because the sewer can,
Encompass it.
yeah, can
Okay.
compensate.
So do we need an action at all for this? Or can we just let him buy it with his?
Yes, you can allow him to purchase it. And I think what Kim is trying to say is if she finds that the budget is too tight for the sewer fund, close to the end of the year, she'll come back and ask you for an amendment.
Okay,
Okay, so you just a consensus. I mean, I'm in
Okay.
for that.
yeah. if
Go
you
buy
could-
your sewer
By
pump.
consensus, I agree with it.
I do too. You just get what you
Anyone,
need.
everyone else?
Jeff just wants to make sure that everybody knows.
I just wanna know everything, if that line item goes over, as long as y'all good with it.
Okay.
Cool.
And we've done it before. I mean, like I say, I'm pretty confident myself we can encompass it, but just in case, I don't like to going over the budget.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks.
Appreciate all you're doing, buddy.
DEQ would thank y'all more than me.
By consent of the council, the expenditure is approved. Consideration to recommend Jacob Ranson to the Joint Board of Zoning Appeals. Mr. Ranson here?
No.
I do not see him.
He wrote an email to Mr. Rourke this morning, and for what it's worth, his term would expire on he's actually filling an unexpired term, which would expire on December 31st of 2024.
Could I see the email?
Absolutely.
Just curious. Just so this is on the record, I do see an email from Jacob Ranson to Christie, I think, or no, to Johnny Rourke. And Johnny Rourke emailed Christie expressing his interest. So I make the motion that we accept or appoint Jacob Ranson to fill the unexpired portion of the term on the Joint Board of Zoning Appeals.
I'll second.
Is that with his appointment, is that their total amount, or are they still missing somebody?
No, that would make it
That's
complete.
it? Okay,
Give them functioning membership in the board for the first time in more than 4 years.
okay, this was the vacancy that we've been desperately trying to fill. Okay. Cool. Okay, all right.
Wonderful.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no? Ayes have it, motion carries. Council discussion of the process for managerial evaluation. Ms. Spiegel, you want to speak to
Yes,
this matter?
as council is already aware, it is now time, or a little bit over time, to do the evaluation for our new town, not so new anymore, town manager, Terry McGee. And I would like, and possibly, we would like to discuss, does council need to also evaluate the Jeff Elder and our treasurer and Roxanne Cass? I don't know. You tell me. So I'm asking, and I'm also requesting, and I've already talked with Mr. Simpson about this. I'm asking for approval to go forward with Nathan Simpson to be in charge of the process. Just the process of the evaluation. He's agreed to do it, so
All right.
That's what I would like to see happen. And then he will come back to us, correct,
Yeah.
with to try to figure out a time and that would suit all of us to handle these evaluations, which are HR, it's an HR issue. It's got to be done. This is nothing about he's bad, he's good, anything. It has nothing to do with that. It's an HR process that which supervisors, people who have been supervisors in the past understand that process. So,
And by the code, the town code, it's my understanding that council would be responsible for the town manager's review and the clerk's review. Would that be it? Or
So the town council can appoint a town manager, a clerk, and a treasurer.
okay,
The clerk and the treasurer and Mr. Elder's position all work at the direction of the town manager.
okay.
So you can do with it.
So right, it would be up to us.
I didn't hear that last because of the train. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. So the town code and charter allows the town council to appoint a town manager, a clerk, and a treasurer. The clerk and the treasurer, as well as Mr. Elder's position, all work under the direct supervision and report to the town manager.
Okay.
So you can, I suppose, do evaluations of the clerk and treasurer if you wish. But that's entirely up to you.
Okay, so
Just so you know, Roxanne and I, and Kim have been working on an evaluation for all of our employees. But so if you want those to fall under me, we're ready to go with that. If you want to keep it at your level, that's certainly a good option.
Yeah, sort of my plan here, as long as it's the rest of council agrees with it.
and just as a side note, Mr. Garrett is working tonight, Timmy Garrett, but I talked to him about this just prior to our meeting, and he said that he agrees, he's agreeable with this process and with Nathan being in charge.
And my goal here is at the next workshop meeting, it may be in that time, Terry, you and I can compare notes and see what we want to do, but at the next workshop meeting, we'll have a plan to move forward. So we can stop delaying this process and having it never happen. So in the next 2 weeks, we can get together and come back with a solid plan.
That sounds great. That's my hope too, that we finally move forward with this. And
I think it'd be good for you to get input from Terry too.
Yeah.
Thank you
in case
for
somebody misses something.
Yeah, none of this is done in isolation.
That's right.
Thank you, Nathan, for stepping forward and agreeing to do this.
Sure.
Good idea.
What is the pleasure of the council?
I think it's a wonderful process, a wonderful way to carry out this process of evaluations.
Do we have consensus that we work it this way? Yeah. Okay. I'm good with it.
So by consensus, we agree to it.
This consent. At the time y'all make your presentation, you'll tell us what positions you want to be evaluating, correct?
Yes. Yep.
I'd like to appoint a committee. Mr. Simpson is chairman. Ms. Spiegel. Mr. Boyce, could you attend work with that committee?
Sure.
Thank you. All right. Council standing committee reports.
That's me.
Yes, ma'am.
The only thing I have this evening is, I think staff is learned a little bit more about what we can and cannot do with ARPA funding. And therefore, they have been working on a list of some additional things that could be done. And they will be presenting that to us before long. So we may have some other things that we want to think about.
Presenting it to council or to that committee?
Council.
Well, probably to the committee first, and then to the entire council once they get it.
Once they get a look at it. Okay.
So we may have some other things that might be of benefit to us if we consider.
And what it is it's a technical strategic plan that addresses all of our technologies, including information technology.
Okay.
It kind of spreads it out. And it's very tactical. You know, it has a mission, it has tasks, and everything kind of gets stored, whatever the council's goals are.
Sounds interesting.
Do we have any citizen comment at this time?
We have all these citizens here and nobody wants to comment.
Good to have you.
We're so glad you're here.
All right, Mr. McGee, Town Manager's report, sir.
Okay, I did meet with the Appomattox Tourism Committee. I would like to continue participating with them. It was a very positive experience. It was well attended, and there are just a lot of opportunities for us to look at different kinds of synergies, both beginning with the website, but in other areas also. As you're aware, we're right in the middle of the budget development underway, and if you do have some initiatives to be considered, please let Kim or I know so we can get those documented. We did a lot of research this week on safety issues regarding the garment factory. We met with the family. They are trying to get that squared
When you
away.
say we, describe who we are.
It was myself and Claudia.
Okay. So you met with the owner of the owner.
Several of the family members.
Right, because it's two owners.
And
Three.
So,
Three.
All kids. Randy, Sue, three.
Okay.
so they very much want to get the right thing done.
That sounds good.
We presented the idea of the brownfield study that basically is a phase 1 environmental study. They're very much in favor of that. So everything about that is very positive direction. I'm meeting again with them later this week to get into the next steps. And not just that place, but any place that's where safety is an issue. We met with legal. There is a committee that's available from the board that can evaluate, true safety situations.
Well, you say from the board, which
This
board?
the council.
Okay, the council. Gotcha.
And right now, the current council membership will expire in April. So if it's needed, there'll be 2 council members on it and a contractor from the local area.
Because we have in existence a property maintenance board
That's it.
that was appointed, and it's Nathan and I.
That-
Specifically, we formed that board.
Campbell was the contractor on that.
Right, because of the pieces of vinyl that were flying in the wind onto Confederate Boulevard, and it was creating a terrible safety issue. But since that was corrected, not fully, but it was correct, the immediate problem was corrected by the owner of the property. But then the next time we had a windstorm, it happened again.
It's a recurring issue.
It is.
And they understand that. That's why they're very much interested in us trying to see what else can be done to help.
That sounds very encouraging.
I will be meeting with the County Board of Supervisors on the 21st to request a building permit fee waiver for the train depot. Let's see, on Lee Grant Avenue, obviously safety along Lee Grant Avenue is a critical issue. I've done a lot of research about how many lots are involved. It's 1,056 feet. That is the narrowest part of that. I contacted Hill Studios in Roanoke, and they're a group that does community planning, or, you know, when you have situations like this, to look at, you know, what are viable options. You know, many of those houses along that way don't have, they have actually less than 25 feet from the center line of the road. So, it's, you know, easements and stuff are not an option for us. So I'm going to meet again with them, with council's permission, to come up with a scope, a contract of what options would you like to be considered. And if council's amenable to that, I will tell them to go ahead and do that. And, you know, then they would give us an estimate price for doing that kind of planning, and then we'll come back to council to address that. But it's a formal way to go about looking at our options.
That sounds good to me.
What was the extent of what we did in the past for this? What went into the Smart Scale application?
Well, the application that we provided scored 0 points on the Smart Scale.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and predominantly that's because there haven't been any fatalities. And that's basically, that's how you get money in VDOT, is you have fatalities. You don't have very many programs that record, you know, safe driving. So
Blows my mind.
that's, so, you know, the best we had gave us 0 points. We actually couldn't score lower. So,
Could we possibly reapply, do you think?
well, you know, from time to time, the scoring schema changes. They switch around, but it hasn't at this point. It cost us about $6,000 to put in that
To apply.
application. So, you know, one of the things you really need to consider, if you're not being competitive, that's $6,000 and that was $6,000 3 years ago.
And when we had, I think we had an engineering study,
That's right.
and what was, refresh my mind if you know, or
I'm not
Kim.
familiar what the
It was well
recommendation-
over $1 million, and that was 3 years ago.
Well, the VDOT estimate was $7.7 million.
Ugh. And I would like to say, one of the main reasons that that I brought this subject up, the safety issue on Lee Grant, and was because one of our citizens who lives, and I will not name names, you don't need to do that, go there, fell on that cracked sidewalk, and it was a serious head injury, and they came to me about it. And then I shared that with Claudia, and we both visited the person, and that's when we got busy trying to figure out, we realized this could be a horrible safety issue. And we've been looking at how to fix this for 3 years, and that VDOT turned us down.
And now, one of the options that the community planning group will look at is really a different approach, and that is, instead of trying to get VDOT funds, there's a whole effort in the federal government to do this approach called alternative transportation, and it focuses on walkways, bikeways, and as far as why that would make an improvement, it might give us a way to address improving the sidewalks along there, you know, through some federal funds. So that's a different approach as opposed to like trying to widen the road as far as traffic is concerned, but it would address
The trees, the roots from those old trees is what's made the sidewalks crack.
And the
Well,
buses
that and
running
the
on
buses.
the
And the
sidewalk.
buses running on the
Even the
side.
fences in these people's yards are, you know, it's, everything is a mess.
You can see everything has been altered from its original.
And there's a sign there, you know, to be careful or whatever.
Be careful.
Yeah, but I'm out there on Sunday mornings. I greet at our church, and I'm out there on Sunday mornings. And it's always problematic, and we're always worried and concerned somebody's gonna wreck.
Yeah.
People meet each other. It's just not wide enough. And when you take 2 school buses, you got a bigger problem. And I mean, it concerns me all the time. And I don't want to lose any of my church members over there so we can get some funds. Something needs to be done. You know, I think that's unbelievable to me. We've got a problem and we recognize it
Right.
and we need to fix it.
Agreed.
And the 7.7 million, that was a
That's
while
the
back,
VDOT standard rate.
a standard rate, but I wonder how much it would,
That's what we'd have to, that's
Be
what
now.
have to be invested in to bring it to VDOT standards and turn it over to the state.
Where the sign says the end of state maintenance, that is that 1,056.
because if I'm not mistaken, we did have an engineering study by Hurt and Profit about Lee Grant. I believe I'm right on that.
Isn't a major cost on it from the utility
But that was a while
movement?
back,
Yeah, it was a while back.
so it'll be,
Probably.
I'll see if I can find that, because that would at least give us something to start with before we get to the community study. And, you know, one of the things that we want to look at is what options would be acceptable. You know, things like one-way streets or time lane changes and those kinds of things might be options, but we want to know ahead of time what was acceptable.
yeah, I wish that I wish we could take action yesterday on this. It's very frustrating when you have this big a safety issue.
You just wait till Church Street
I know.
project starts up.
Yep.
Because everybody and their brothers are gonna be trying to right past.
Well, Claudia and I and
Against the school buses.
Reverend Duck, we're trying to get the word out as best we can to our public that when that Church Street project start, which is to widen the water line, it's like it's been there since I was born, and don't say a word. You weren't born then either. I get
Can't
it.
do that math.
He always goes the
Bill
age
told me
route.
one time he remembered when they put it in the ground.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's very inadequate, especially for fire safety purposes, but just for all purposes. So when that begins, and we had a supply issue, and we were going to start it prior to this, but we're just now about ready to start it. I think the bids have gone out and so on and so forth. It's going to be one way. Church Street's going to be one way with a flagman.
For a while.
Yeah, for a while. We've already diverted or tried to divert the truck traffic over to Redfields Road, but I still see trucks go down Church Street. But anyway.
Okay. And the new topic, by way of update, I did get a call from the holding company that was asking about skilled games in town. They are reconsidering how they're approaching this. They're considering adding a restaurant and a bar. Initially,
Little Daddies.
initially they had turned down Little Daddies because they didn't have any kind of return on investment on their initial proposal. They are reconsidering that. He did not tell me when they would get back with me, but I did want to let you know because they called me.
Please refresh the information for all of our guests here that the reason that in the town code, the reason for this first primary and secondary business, if you run those gambling.
If you're not aware, those machines when you walk into the gas stations, there are people standing around. That's referred to as skilled gaming. The current town code says that you cannot have that particular business as the sole business. It can be a secondary business. And so when the holding company came and asked about that, we let them know that their code, this current code prohibits that. In addition to all that, there is a state lawsuit going on that's out in Greene County. And right now there's an injunction against any enforcement of the existing law that would stop skilled gaming. So if you'll get around all almost any of these stations, you'll notice that they're doing field gaming. This is a business that wanted to do it only, as a standalone business, and the code doesn't allow that.
In the old Hackett Chainsaw location, the
So-
Triangle Plaza.
So if they do a
Nothing but
restaurant,
the-
they would maybe use Bull Daddy's.
Yeah,
Right.
And so he said they were gonna reconsider.
I think it would probably be incumbent on council that if this kind of business was to come into the town, that we would have some way. I know that our town charter says they can do this way, but I think there should be language written in there that says if it come out in the lawsuit that the state of Virginia did outlaw this business, that they would shut it down immediately.
Well, and that, is what a lot of the state attorneys are very afraid of, because at the county level, their ability to do that would be really abbreviated because they are so widespread.
Because currently, we have several locations in town that have those machines, and Lynchburg City has like
Yeah.
100 times more than we have. But I don't know that Lynchburg City has the stipulation that it has to be a secondary business. I don't know that. But they're everywhere, all over Lynchburg. So,
I got an update from the roofer on the train depot. They requested permission to be able to use 16-inch instead of 18-inch slate. I agreed to that, and that may enable them to utilize a lot more of the slate that's there.
okay.
And that might keep us out of having to convert to synthetic slate. So I thought that was a pretty good compromise.
Yes.
Lose a couple of inches, but, still, and the other thing that will do is that'll let them keep more of the same color slate together.
What do you mean by slate that's there?
The roofing, they're basically roofing plates.
Yeah, you can reuse
Some of
that.
Yeah, then clean it
It's-
and,
It's rock.
And I commend Jamerson Lewis Construction Company for coming up
the
with that
plan was to
idea.
match it, like where it's been, they would put some on one side, where it's been like patched.
Yeah. If you look on the back side, you'll see
See the
clear
back.
differences in the shades.
So our plan was never to completely replace the slate?
We certainly did want to replace it, but the difficulty is in actually finding the slate. The roof is having a real hard time finding the slate source.
Recut slate, because it's still, again, it's rock, but it's still been weathered. So even though this has been covered, is this slate going to last 100 years?
It's, yes, sir.
But it should be here longer than you and me.
Or me.
Well, when you
I was gonna leave you out, Mary.
I beat you.
When you buy new roofing material, there's a warranty associated with that roof. Is there any sort of warranty associated with the materials we're using?
Yes.
So they're gonna warranty
Yes.
our stone?
Right. The roof has a warranty of, I believe it's 60 years.
Okay, as long as we get a 6-year warranty on our own slate, that's fine.
And again, I must say that I commend Jamerson Lewis Construction Company for coming up with this idea. I think it's a great idea.
Well, I'd love to give him credit, but
The
it's the roofer.
roofer,
that made it
yeah,
possible.
the coat, them too.
And that's everything that I have.
Thank you, Mr. McGee.
Treasurer? No, not tonight, okay.
Council comment. Ms. Puckett,
Nothing tonight, sir.
Mr. Simpson?
Just two real quick things. On the Dominion Fiber last mile,
Right.
have you heard anything back from them?
I did not contact them. I apologize.
Cool. It would just be great if we could know whether they're building an interstate without any exits for us, or we'll get any sort of benefit for town residents off of their fiber.
I think, if I could interject, the benefit would be that we have this fiber optic in town with the possibility of Firefly.
Yeah.
That's the benefit to the
It's
town.
just making sure it doesn't just sit forever, because there still has to
Yeah,
be funding to build
I
out
don't
the
think
fiber.
that's their intention.
And then the other piece, for the sake of everyone else, Terry and I had emailed earlier today about the new town website contract. And he had indicated that we had received a bid. We have a quote that we could execute on. It would be my goal here if we could go ahead and execute that and just start the process. I'm assuming their account manager would send a list of needs. And, you know, we could just execute the contract and then work through the list of needs whenever you or Roxanne or whoever's managing the process has time.
It's several of us. That's kind
Yeah.
of the difficulty in trying to get us all together.
Yeah, but if we could just, you know, lock it in, is it a 3-year quote, 5-year quote?
It's a 3.
3, yeah. I mean, and it's, do you know how much it is for?
I think it's less than 6,000. It just depends on how
Yeah.
many pieces.
That's a good
Yep.
price.
And just so you know, I talked with the president of Firefly, and they very much want to come to the area. They cannot go where Chantel already is until the rules change. And the rules were changed by the federal government of what it used to be 20 megabits, now it's 100 megabits.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, so basically, Chantel paid a capital outlay with no government support. And so the legislation is set up so that it doesn't give some other, you know, company an unfair advantage because this is a government supplement.
So the fiber and the franchise agreement does not benefit the town in any near term then?
It just depends on what neighborhood you get to.
Yeah.
If Chantel's not there,
But
Firefly can't.
Yeah, but Chantel covers the whole town.
Yeah, they just
So-
got that new, they just
Yeah.
covered the back end of North Ave, so.
Okay. So that answers that question. Because this was all funded with federal block grant money or whatever
Right.
that has restrictions. So, I mean,
But when
10
the
years from
rules
now, we
changed-
might be able to have
when
it.
the rules changed,
Yeah.
when they had to wait at least a year for the rules to, you know, go from 20 to 100.
Right.
The rules changed as far as where Firefly can go.
So everybody call your congressperson and tell them to change the rules.
Now, I mean, the rules already have changed.
But they need to go up, because
So- but they
Chantel
need-
provides
no,
100.
It's sitting at 100 now.
Right.
But they had to wait another year after that before Firefly could compete for the same area.
Huh.
Okay.
So we've got a deadline in sight then that,
Yeah,
Where
I
they
think it's
can-
October.
okay.
Of this year.
I think it's October.
So again, the benefit to the town will be Firefly, which is, I don't want to say anything ill against Chantel, but Firefly is a much faster internet connection.
If you have any fun reading materials on that, love to read through them. Thank you.
Go to Firefly VA, and you get a website out there that you can sign up for, and you've got a bunch of information on their site.
Roger Dodger, thank you.
Thank you.
It's Firefly VA.
Ms. Allen? Any comments?
Nothing.
Mr. Boyce?
He's quiet tonight. You
Ms.
guys have
Spiegel?
hit, you guys
I
hit
have
pretty much
nothing
on
further
everything.
to say tonight. Everyone have a wonderful Valentine's Day tomorrow. And go get your fiance something.
You know, I'm glad that will forever live in the public record.
She's got it all. She doesn't need anything else.
We
She's
tried
got
to get
him
her
right.
out for-
I don't know about that.
Timmy's not here, so
Right.
who's got the honors?
I'll let Ms. Allen, would you like to move for adjournment? Is there a second?
Second, we all second that.
Motion made, properly second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you
Opposed?
for coming.
Meeting
you all.
adjourned. Thank you all for
Ladies.
coming out. Appreciate it.